And welcome back to Arsenal, where we're taking a tour of the Stridsvagn M42. And part two, as ever, will be the interior. I'm going to start off with the commander's hatch. He has a non-rotating cupola. There are 5 periscopes to give him reasonable 360-degree vision, although front left is certainly lacking. It has this sort of armored shield instead. The hatch is very simple 2-piece affair. It is spring-loaded, which reduces some of the weight limits. And these little handles here are simply as you're getting into the tank to give you a little bit more leverage to lift it up. The other points to note on the turret roof is the fact that there is indeed a periscope for the gunner, and that there are no other points to note on the turret roof. So that said, let's have a look inside. So welcome to what is probably going to be one of the fastest ever positions on the inside of Chieftain Salvage, because I don't very much to talk about. The commander is sitting on a fold down solid bench. He is constrained by the large gun recoil system to the left and also the loader's seat. The loader is to his front, which is a little bit of a questionable design decision, but there you go. Over his left shoulder, he has the 25-watt Model 1 radio, a couple of dome lights, and the commander's override, which in fairness was a fairly new idea when the tank was built, and credit to the Swedes for installing one. That's pretty much it, so I'm going to move forward to the loader seat and check that out. So move forward to the loader seat. He also has a fold down bench, and it's pretty much necessary because this is a rather narrow area and there is no turret platform. So I do not want to imagine how anybody would want to keep their legs attached as the turret is traversing and the loader is trying to shuffle around the whole floor. That said, the entire vehicle is a little bit narrow. Again, this comes back to the strategic issues. To his front, you can see the twin 8mm machine guns, and as you can see, they are physically connected to the main gun, making them coaxial. However, if you look to the front, you can see some now welded in place portholes. And in the earlier versions, it would appear it was possible, from looking at the manual, to quickly disconnect the machine guns and use them as independent machine guns for the loader to aim separate to the main gun. The ammunition is 75mm, obviously, for the gun, and there are 59 rounds scattered around the vehicle. 2 of them are located to his right, in a very ready position. There's an additional 10 scattered around just underneath the breech, and it looks like 16 in the turret outer ring. And I'd say he can get to the vast majority of them without leaving his location. The 75mm rounds are pretty small, and they are loaded left hand into the horizontally sliding breech. I mean, it's not too bad, at least the rounds are short. The rest of the 59 rounds are located either in a bin in the hull floor, and they're kind of angled forward and down, or they are located forward next to the driver. Now, one of the really neat features I like about this is the dunnage system. So all the spent shell casings and link from the machine guns fall into this tray here. And when you're ready, you open up this flap and you just simply shove all the casings down this chute. The chute then goes into this funnel, which goes to the belly of the tank. Shell casings from the 75mm will do the same thing. They'll bounce out, fall down to this little drain. And when you're ready for releasing the shell casings, maybe especially if you want to keep the brass and you'll carry it around, they just rattle around in the bottom of the tank until you pull up on this handle, which opens a flap in the bottom of the hull, and all the shell casings simply fall out. And it is a very clever way of dealing with the problem of the spent shell cases, which otherwise will be rattling around, causing a hazard and taking up room inside the vehicle. So that was the loader's side of things. Let's hop over to the gunner. Welcome to the gunner seat. This is different. As you can see, the sights are down more or less at the level of my breast. I don't know how short you had to be a gunner on this vehicle, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get off the seat, which is fixed in height, and I'm going to kneel on the whole floor. Much better. So I am now kneeling on the whole floor, and I am perfectly placed for the two main sights. Now I do observe that the turret roof has a bulge in the middle, which is obviously designed to allow the breech to go up and fire at high rates of depression. And indeed, the depression figure is about 15 degrees. Why they didn't extend this over to the gunner's side, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, I guess they were trying to go for the low profile, but my God, it's awful. Sights, he's got two of them. He's got the periscopic sight. It's, as you can see, a 1.75 magnification, 40-degree field of vision. It is linked to the main gun and can be used as the primary sight. Very useful also, of course, when scanning for targets in a turret down position. You can lay on the target before exposing the rest of the turret. The auxiliary sight is an elbow sight telescope right next to the main gun, and it is also about a 1.7 magnification, although a narrower 28-degree field of vision. Nice thing about this is it lets you know whether or not your gun is clear of any obstructions. Controls are simple enough. He has a power traverse control up above here. You simply move left or right, and the turret will go in the appropriate direction. Elevation is manual. There is an elevation lock, which you pull down here, and then you can crank up or down. There is a manual traverse located at the very bottom, and it is a simple crank in the similar manner as pretty much every other manual traverse you'll ever come across. Couple of switches towards front for the weapon systems, and that is it. Of course, it should be noted that because there is no turret platform, the gunner cannot shoot squatted down on its haunches or on a knee, as I am right now. And yeah, you want to be short. So I am going to look forward to getting out of here and moving to the driver's hole. So I've slid forwards and down into the driver's seat, and this is much better. Even the hatch is easy to close. Now this is how you do a driver's seat for an early war tank. I can easily drive this. Compared to the gunner seat, where I don't know what they were thinking, this was designed to be seated in comfortably for a reasonable period of time. So if I can drive it without too much difficulty, I have no doubt that the average sized crewman of the time would have been very comfortable indeed. Steering controls are actually pretty simple. You have your traditional two levers. Now, an interesting point though is that if you depress on the button on the very top, this brings you into an extra steering mode, which is so tight that the radius is 1/2 meter from the inside track. So again, that's very good. If you consider, let's say, the minimum steering radius on a Sherman was about 30 feet off the top of my head, that's quite impressive. Other controls towards front, he has two pedals. He has the accelerator pedal and the brake pedal. For changing gears, he just lets off on the accelerator. It's rather a clever little gearbox. The dash is very simple. Speedometer, oil pressure, oil temperature, water temperature, starter motor. Drivers had two gearboxes available to them. They started off with an electromechanical type from ZF in Germany. It was capable, it was high-tech, it was lightweight, and it was unreliable. So they were pretty soon replaced by a hydraulic system, such as the one on this tank. Now this also made its way into the nomenclature. If you had the electromechanical transmission, you got an M on the name of the tank. If you had the hydraulic system, you got a H. So combine that with the engine, and this particular vehicle would have been known as a Stridsvagn M42EH for the single engine and hydraulic gearbox. As he drives around, he has three reasonably small periscopes to look out of. I mean, they're serviceable. Would I prefer bigger? Yes. To his right would be the location of the hull machine gun. Again, this is an IKV, it's been removed from this vehicle. But when there was a hull machine gun, there was no hull machine gunner. It was quite simply the driver would reach over, or maybe the loader would go down, but I don't see why if he had a couple of machine guns of his own to play with. And it will be aimed simply by use of following the tracer through the periscopes. Underneath you can see the stowage for an additional 20 or so rounds of ammunition on the right hand side there. As you go around to the left, the last thing I'll point out is the extinguisher handle. The bottle is just behind. The handle is attached to a similar one on the far side of the armor plate, so it was actually possible to set off the fire extinguishers either from inside or outside of the vehicle. So that was pretty much the inside of the tank. I shall now egress through the driver's hole, which let's see how hard it is going to be to do. I suspect it won't be, because all you do is you simply release the safety lock, bring it up, lock it in place, open the 2 hatches, and there's lots of room to get out. So in the tradition as known to me, oh my god, the tank is on fire. Well, that was easy enough. The 282 vehicles that were built saw service until 1957. At that point, they started being converted, 225 of them, with the twin engines to STRV-74 standard, and the rest to IKV-73. Of the ones that were converted to 74, the turrets of the 42s were then used as shore fortifications, and when the 74s were withdrawn from service, tank restorers could then go get the old turrets, put them back onto the 74s, and give us a representation of 42s again that we could see around the world. So that was the Stridsvagn M42. We'll see you on the next one.